You are tuned in to On Air with Chris Shanafelt.
Welcome back On Air with Chris Shanafelt, and it's a pleasure to now welcome onto the show former Chicago Bears center and a member of the Humboldt State Athletics 2018 Hall of Fame class. He's now a trainer at LaCharles Bentley's offensive line performance. He's Taylor Boggs, and he joins the show now. Taylor, thank you very much for taking some time this afternoon to chat. How's everything going?
Oh, thanks for having me. Everything's great.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine. And, I wanted to bring you on the show, and we're going to start off by kind of reminiscing about your playing days, your football career. And it's really like an underdog, movie-like scripted football career that you had, Taylor. And it all started back at Upland High School in Southern California. Doing some research, I see that your football coach there basically told you he didn't really think that you had what it took to play college football. It seemed like he may have not had too much faith in you playing at the next level. And what do? You go on and you spend a year playing tight end at the University of Pikeville, an NAIA program in Kentucky, before transferring to Humboldt State and eventually making the Lumberjack football team after failing to do so the first year you tried out there. I want to kick this interview off by asking you, Taylor, how were you able to stay motivated and chase your dream after hearing your own high school football coach kind of tell you that he didn't have too much faith in you playing at the college level? And did those words light up some type of fire inside of you or give you an added chip on your shoulder?
I wouldn't say that. I don't want to give anyone that kind of or maybe that kind of respect towards my journey that didn't believe in me, because there's too many people that helped me along the way. So I don't think that was the chip or that didn't light the fire. I left the room kind of taking it with a grain of salt because, as people, we tend to base everything off of our own experiences, right? So in his experience, someone my size couldn't possibly go to the next level, and no matter what division of college that might have been, and because, with his experience, a guy my size comes in, plays high school, calls it a day. Well, my experience is that I was on JV as a junior, and then I went on to be second team All-League my senior year on the varsity team. So I went from, JV, rotating with young guys because they didn't want to take away playing time from sophomores that would potentially be starting the next year on varsity, to getting postseason accolades. So my experience was the sky was the limit. So I can't give him the credit for, lighting that fire, to be honest.
I like it. How did you find yourself playing the offensive line, though, Taylor? I mean, specifically the center position. Was that something that you were playing back at high school? Because, as I said, your first year there at Pikeville, you were playing tight end. So where did the offensive line play come, specifically the center position, one of the toughest positions in all football, the guy that's kind of the commander of the offensive line?
Well, I played O-line since I was like 7. I was very small growing up, which probably made my love relationship with the weight room come to fruition. So, played O-line all through Pop Warner. That's where they sent the big people. Normally, in my case, they sent the unathletic person down to O-line. Eventually, I grew to love it because growing up in Southern California, the Rams left and the Raiders went back up north. Chargers were a little too far down south, so we had a huge following for the Cowboys in Southern California, and they would play the Cowboys games all the time, and those are what we witnessed. And luckily, John Madden always highlighted Larry Allen, so I always just embraced offensive line because of that growing up. And then, it became cool to me to play O-line because here is John Madden, one of the greatest coaches and everyone's favorite commentator and everyone's favorite video game is always talking about this offensive lineman. So, it didn't come like as me being unathletic. It was like, dude, this could be the one kicking everyone's butt. So it became like a position I just loved, a lifestyle I loved. And the thing with Pikeville is I was going there. I was originally going to go to a Division III school and couldn't afford it. Family couldn't afford it. They're like $20,000 a year, even with like the financial aid, maybe $30,000 a year, to be honest. But one of the coaches took that job at Pikeville and said that he could give me academic money and it's a better level of football. So I go out there going to play center, and they had some good players there. There was this guy, Brad Allen, tough as they can be, old school Southern guy. So they had him, and there was another young guy that was the backup. So they were just trying to give me a position on the field, and I played like a kind of an HVAC blocking thing. You know, I had 2 jerseys though. I had I think I wore 55, just in case I had to go in at O-line, and a 45 just to play those other positions. I didn't play much; it was very sparingly.
Now having those 2 jerseys, did you wear both jerseys at once and take the 45 off, and you're ready in that 50 number, or was it over by the sideline and by the coach?
That was over by the sideline. I grew up in Southern California. Like, we're known for heat, but we don't have that humidity, so that was a whole other monster going out there. And then later in the year, I started wearing both. That was my first time ever seeing snow. So I did wear both as the year progressed on.
That's great. Well, hey, speaking of offensive line and offensive line play, Taylor, everybody knows about LaCharles Bentley and, what he's built with O-line performance, a training facility built solely for offensive linemen. It's located in Chandler, Arizona. Basically, you were the first college player that the former Pro Bowl offensive lineman worked with. Obviously, as you said earlier, you put the hard work in to get to where you've been at and where you're at today, Taylor. But how much of an impact has LaCharles Bentley had on your career, with the advice and the work that he's kind of helped you with? Would you have gotten the NFL opportunities if it wasn't for him kind of coaching and mentoring and bringing you along over the years?
Yeah, so, okay, that was a long answer, if you don't mind. So, yeah, I had actually seen him play in person. I grew up as a UCLA fan, and I went to a game versus Ohio State because everyone was like, oh, that's going to be a cool game. Ohio State, Midwest, everyone's such a famous program. It was actually easier to get tickets for that than when they played Notre Dame or USC. So did the Ohio State game, and there's this center out there just murdering everybody. And, it's a little harder to come by information back then as far as internet goes. So it's like I had to go find their roster, and then found out the guy's name was LaCharles Bentley, started following him in the draft. And, that was my guy. Like, this guy's an animal. So fast forward to like 2009 or 2000, after the 2008 or 9 season, all the O-linemen from Humboldt State were sitting around. We're talking about which O-linemen are the best right now. And I was like, oh, well, when LaCharles Bentley, his knees gets better, he's the best, and everyone at the time was like, Olin Cruz is still the best, because that's my other favorite player. And we were just kind of naming off centers, and I was like, just wait for LaCharles to come back, though. And then no one knew what I was talking about. We hadn't played in a few years. So, I finally was like, well, I think he's coming back. We, Googled what he was doing, saw he had this gym out in Avon, Ohio. He's working with high school kids. So I was like, holy crap, this is my shot. Reached out to him, said I wanted to come train with him. My friend, he was the left guard, Ruben Gomez. He should have definitely had a shot in the NFL. But, things don't always work out. So we both ended up going out there. Before we went, he was like, I got to see some film, because I'm not just going to let the guys from California just waste their money. I was like, cool. A couple days later, after he gets the film, back then it was DVD. It was not like the Huddle or anything. So he watches it, come out there. He works with me my junior year, senior year. And then, I had amazing support relationships with a couple coaches at Humboldt State. My strength coach, Drew Peterson, who's just a tremendous human being. The D-line coach, Solomon Tapasa, another tremendous human being. And then the O-line coach, Coach Manoa Puano, just awesome guys. And they had given me so much just as a human being, as a man, as a football player. They just made me grow so much. Basically, LaCharles was able to kind of sharpen and refine everything going into that last year. And then he trained me, obviously, for the combine or for the pro day in my rookie year. So, yes, like, he had a huge impact on everything, any success I had after meeting him. And then he also, just not just training and not just O-line, just the whole mindset. He had a lot to do with it. And then when I've been out the league, he was able to use his good reputation to get me to work out with Chicago, which I ended up making the team and everything. So he's been a huge part of my whole career.
I don't know if dream come true is the right phrase to use, but seeing how familiar you were with his game and how much of a fan you were of his when he was playing, and then being able to kind of work with him and have the opportunity of him kind of coaching you up and like you said, sharpening your skills and sharpening your game on the offensive line. I got to think that was really cool. Again, we're chatting with Taylor Boggs, the former Chicago Bears center, now doing some work with LaCharles Bentley over at O-Line Performance. And after going undrafted in the 2011 NFL Draft, Taylor, you signed with the New York Jets. What was the draft process like for you? Did you garner a lot of interest from NFL teams throughout your senior year and leading up to the draft? Were you confident that you would get an opportunity whether you were drafted or not?
I was always confident in the opportunity. That's what I was doing it for, right? Like, play great at Humboldt to get the next opportunity. I wasn't ready to ever stop playing. I had, there was probably my junior year talked to a few teams, senior year talked to a few teams, and we played in this Cactus Bowl, which is like the D2 version of the Senior Bowl. After that game, calls started picking up, and teams were probably maybe 28 of the 32 teams that called for my draft day number, that kind of thing. It was a strange year though, because it was a lockout year. So if I have, for instance, Alex Kappa was the first player to get drafted out of Humboldt State this year. Amazing, just an amazing person and player. And I could kind of tell him some of the things going on. Well, there was no one to really tell me, because not even with Charles or anyone really understood what was going on in the lockout year. So if you didn't get drafted, I signed with the Jets July 24th, and that's when all the undrafted people signed. So it was you're sitting there in limbo. Draft happened, 4 or 5 months go by before you get a call. So that's when it became frustrating. Draft day, ultimately, it was like a punch to the gut, because, a team might call and say, hey, if you're available on the 7th, we're going to take you. And then you're like, okay, this is it. And then all of a sudden someone else's name pops up, that kind of thing. So, that was frustrating. And then the next 4 or 5 months, it's frustrating. Finally get a call. And then, unlike now, that year, there was no OTAs. There was no playbooks, no meetings. It was hey, we showed up. Here's your number. Here's your physical. You passed. All right, we're starting practice in 2 days. And that was it. Wow. So it was a different experience than what I'm able to help young guys with now. It was just a strange year, especially, coming from a small school. There's not many people that I could even hey, how was it? Just get any details on.
Yeah, everything's kind of shrunken up, leading up, like you said. You didn't even sign until, or undrafted free agents didn't even sign until late July. A couple weeks later, if that, you're playing in a preseason game. So, again, especially making that jump from D2 to the NFL. And then, unfortunately, in the first week of training camp there with the New York Jets, you tore your ACL, and that would end up keeping you out of the league for 2 years before the Chicago Bears decided to bring you in for a workout in which you impressed enough to leave with a signed contract. Obviously, you've been through a lot up to this point of your journey, Taylor. But did you ever think, especially after tearing that ACL and being out of the league for 2 seasons, that maybe your time was up, maybe it was time to hang up the cleats? Normally when somebody's out of football for 1 season, it's rare that they get another look. Here you are out for 2, and then, the hard work pays off. You're able to get a workout with the Bears. You ink a deal with them. How rejuvenating was that when you signed to become a member of the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, I mean, I won't sit here and lie and be like, oh, no, I always knew it was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Like, I had my days. I just had more positive days than negative days. I had like one day I was like, oh, that's probably it, because I did a mini camp with some teams, and no contracts that 2012 year. And then I was like going to the gym, and I was just feeling sorry for myself. And I told my fiance, my wife now, I was like, that might be it. And she was just like, she's like, you better snap out of it. She's like, it could be it, but you can't be acting like this. So I was like, okay. So I'm like going to the gym, and I just decided, I was like, man, I'm just going to do some cardio. I'm going to start losing some weight, and I never do cardio. It's just, I'm always just lift weights or some O-line drills. That's what I do. So then I was like, got on a bike. This kid comes up to me. He plays at Chapman. It's either Chapman University. It's a Division III school in Orange County, California. And this guy comes up and he goes, hey, are you Taylor Boggs? And I'm dead serious. I said, oh, I used to be. And he goes, no. He's like, oh, Taylor Boggs. I said, yeah. He goes, our O-line coach is a Humboldt State alum from, I guess he played in 2002. And he goes, we watch your highlight film every day. And he was like, the center watches your highlight film every day trying to play like you. And I go, dude, I appreciate that. I got off the bike and got back to work. So, from that point on, that was in July of 2012. So then from July of 2012, from all the way to that workout for the Bears, which was in April of 13, I didn't miss a day of workout, just Sundays off. So I was like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And finally, when Charles had built a relationship with Dwayne Joseph and Emory for the Bears, he called them. They said he was crazy, and they go, we're just doing this because of you. And then they told me, hey, this is not normal. You better just thank with Charles, because he was like, we wouldn't give you a workout. We went back, saw some film, but he was like, it might as well be high school film because you've been out the league so long. I go, okay, I understand. I get there, and they're like, you better be in great shape. And that I was fully confident I was in great shape. Afterwards, they laughed, and they were like, hey, you better go. He was like, I'm all about thanking God, but you better thank with Charles just as much as we're to sign you. So then that's how it all went down with Chicago.
That's awesome. And, yeah, I mean, from there, you're with the Bears for 2 seasons in 2013 and 14, a.k.a. the Mark Trestman era. It was an interesting and kind of a disappointing time for the organization in terms of wins and losses, Taylor. But overall, how would you describe your experience playing for the most storied franchise in the National Football League?
Well, I mean, if you really think about it, you either play for Green Bay or Chicago. just because, that's what you think of as football, that old school. It just has a great historic feel. Just people that have come through there. It's like a freaking museum, you know what I mean, going through there. All these retired numbers, all these Hall of Famers. It's absolutely unreal. I was a huge fan of Olin Kreutz and Brian Urlacher growing up, even Lance Briggs and Big Cat Williams. So it was unreal just being in the building. I can remember doing the workout, and I was like, holy crap. And then when they signed, I just remember trying to just search through the building, see all the history of the building, looking at the pictures of the rosters in the building. It was unreal.
What would you say was your welcome to the NFL moment, whether it was with Chicago or a different team? Seems like every player I talk to, they have one specific moment when they realize, all right, this is my job. I'm in the National Football League. Time to take it to the next step.
I can confidently say, with all honesty, never just a moment like that. I've always been a guy, I've never even taken time to appreciate moments, and this has been a problem for me, whether it be a positive or negative. I think most experiences you get something out of, and bad or good, but I never really took a time to kind of be like, oh, there it was, and I hear guys talk about it. Oh, I was welcome to the NFL on this play. This guy kicked my butt. Or when I pancaked this guy, I never did that because I was just always like, get back to work, get back to work. When it was, being out of the league for that long, I mean, I just don't have time. My mind doesn't have time to take a moment. It was like, hey, you know what it felt like to be out. You know what it felt like to be having your fiance, by then she was my wife, by the time I was in Chicago, tell you, like, you better snap out of this. You can't be acting like this. So I didn't really have that kind of moment, that moment. And then in the Jets training camp, it was just full of fights and stuff and, like, frustration because I might have not known to play or something like that, and I just tried to get in a fight. And so I didn't have it there. So I could honestly say confidently that I just didn't kind of have those moments that players talk about.
A few more questions with former Bears center Taylor Boggs here on air with Chris Shanafelt. Taylor, really do appreciate your time. It's been a blast chatting with you. Are you officially retired? I know you're doing some coaching, some training with LaCharles Bentley at O-Line Performance. If a team calls you and offers you a deal 15 minutes from now, they're in need of a center. Are you taking that deal?
Oh, I'm in. It's hard for me to wrap my head around, like, retirement. Like when I look at retirement, I'm like, okay, Olin Kreutz, Roberto Garza, Urlacher, these guys retired. Like I didn't have that kind of. I didn't, go till there was nothing left. And not that those guys did. They probably could even win longer. But I still love O-line. I've never liked football, but I've always loved offensive line. So for me to be like, I'll retire when I don't love it anymore. So, yeah, if someone called, I'm in. Let's go. I'm in shape. I haven't been out of shape in my mind, I haven't been out of shape since 2008. So, yeah, I'd go in a heartbeat.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, last time you strapped up for a team was with the Chicago Bears around this time last year. I'm just curious, any thoughts on the Bears O-line heading into this season? I mean, there are some people worrying about the center position and Cody Whitehair. Should they move the young guy, the second-round pick James Daniel out of Iowa? Should they bring him in and kick Cody Whitehair out to guard and have Daniels play center? Obviously, a healthy Kyle Long coming back will be huge for this group. Charles Leno Jr. seems to improve year after year. I'm curious, as somebody who plays the position as a professional, your take on the Chicago Bears offensive line?
So, Leno, ultimate professional, just day in, day out. A lot of times with tackles, now he had a good mentor in Jermon Bushrod, but you see guys like they're just really good players. They work hard, but you don't see tackles as smart as Leno that often. Bushrod was like that. You know what I mean? Bushrod watched film with the centers, that kind of thing. He liked to know what all the calls and what everyone was doing. And Leno's that same way. I think Whitehair's a center. I think Whitehair could play anything, but I think he's one of the better centers in the NFL. And I think, like, outside of, like, in the last, let's just say, as far as rookie center go, Marquise Pouncey, you could say in this decade, that was the best center season for a rookie. And, Frederick had a good year as a rookie. And this is in my humble opinion, okay, of course. But, Whitehair, that's one of the best rookie center seasons I've seen since that Marquise Pouncey. When he hits people, they go backwards. And a lot of centers, it's more like don't mess up. And Whitehair just moves people. I think in that division, that center for Minnesota, Pat Elflein, is the same way. I think their rookie seasons rivaled each other. I think he's a great center. Everyone's, caught up in his snaps and stuff. But at the end of the day, like, he could sharpen that up. I think if he stopped hearing about it as much, it would just they'd straighten themselves out. But when he hits people, they go backwards, and that's a lost art at the center position. So in my mind, Whitehair's a center. Obviously, Kyle Long is just a freak. You don't see anything like that. It doesn't come around that often. If he's like 50 pounds lighter, you got a linebacker or a DN, and he could probably play defensive line right now. And then Bobby Massey, that's my brother. That guy just shows up every day and works. Whether it's off season, it doesn't matter. He shows up every day.
That's awesome. Great insight by the former Bears center, Taylor Boggs. And one last thing before we let you go, Taylor. It's something that you've been somewhat vocal about on Twitter, and it's, as an alum, it's really no surprise. The Humboldt State University they're dropping their football program after this upcoming season, despite all the successes the program has had over the years. And as you mentioned earlier in the conversation, having a player, an offensive lineman, Alex Kappa, selected in the third round of the 2018 NFL Draft. The Lumberjacks football program, it's been around for, if I did my research correctly, 94 years. This will be the 94th season that they play, that they're getting ready for as we speak. I mean, how tough did this news come down on you when you first heard about this?
Yeah, man, look, things never went really well there. Like, there was never support from administration, even that's the university administration, even administration in the athletic department. There was never a ton of support. Whenever there was a budget issue, they would blame football. So there was always they were always putting it out there that football was to blame. It was tough. I'll never be the one to credit saying Humboldt State was the place that builds men and stuff, because that's a lie, and it's just insulting to the people there, like the relationships you build, people that actually help you, become what you're going to be. I think football in general creates a tremendous stimulus that's hard to match just in the regular world, especially offensive line. So I think that it gives you, you realize, if you're made uncomfortable all the time, it teaches you teamwork. It teaches you all types of things under the right culture. So I don't say Humboldt State makes great people, but there's great people there. Like, the strength coach has been there since '89, and it hurts to me to think like there's not going to be 100 people a year getting a chance to work with this man and have Drew Peterson impact their lives. That sucks for me. And then it sucks for me to think like that Drew Peterson is, giving his life to that place, and he won't get to do that again. That kind of thing, that's where it hits hard. As far as you go play football anywhere. If the coaching culture is good, football is going to teach you everything you could possibly need. So, I won't say it's just Humboldt State. It's just unique to Humboldt State. I'd be lying. But, yeah, having said that, it sucks to think that I won't be able to catch a Lumberjack game online, potentially a Lumberjack game in person in the future, or when they come out to L.A. and stuff. That does suck.
Yeah, I mean, and, as you mentioned, I mean, you got 100 or so athletes that, that'll have this opportunity kind of taken away from them, won't be able to play, at least there at Humboldt State. Taylor, really appreciate your time. You've given me about a half hour of your time, and I feel like we could just talk for hours and hours about football and really probably about life and anything in general, man. Really do appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and would love to chat with you again down the line, man. Any final words before I let you go?
No, I appreciate it. It was a great interview. Anytime you want to do it again, just let me know.
Absolutely, man. Hey, thanks again, and best of luck to you in your future endeavors. And, again, take care, man.
Thank you. You too.